Hi, my name's Darren Mostyn, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the cut page. And this is my first beginner's episode, so it's a little bit longer than usual, but stick with it because I'm going to give away my number one secret as to why people fail in the cut page. There is one fundamental thing that most people get wrong, and that is why they find the cut page difficult over the edit page. I'm also going to give away my usual tips and tricks, so stick with it and let's go and take a look. So just before we dive into the cut page, I just want to explain for complete beginners that each of these pages down at the bottom are linked together. So there's one timeline that we're working on, and that timeline is shown in these different pages to perform a different task. So the media page is just where we import the media to start with to actually create our edit. Cut page is what we're going to look at today. The edit page talks to the cut page, so that's the same timeline as you can see here, just visually represented slightly differently, and there's slightly different tools in this page than there are in the cut page, but they do a very similar job. The fusion page is where we do special effects to this timeline. The color page is where we color grade that timeline. Fairlight is where we do the audio mixing. You can also do the audio mixing in the edit page. And delivery is where we export it out at the end. So that's just to clarify those pages for those who are very new to this. So just to show you, if I go to the edit page and we take this shot here, if I click on it and press backspace, the shot deletes. And if I go to the cut page, you'll see that the shot has gone. And if I undo that, Apple Z, the shot reappears. So the two pages are completely talking to each other. So I am going to build a brand new sequence from scratch, but just to show you what's going on here, video track 1 contains the main body of our program. So it's the interview, it's the introduction, it's that sort of thing. The video layer 2 here is the cutaway material. So when we're doing an interview here, if I just play this, we've got an interview and then we cut away to various shots of him in action. So that's kind of how the timeline works. And traditionally you would do all the program in this one edit page. But now we have the cut page, and the cut page has a big advantage over the edit page in terms of speed of editing that program. So to get that program made initially, you can work much faster in the cut page than you can in the edit page. So it's very efficient and very accurate. So what I want to do is show you how it works. There are unique things to both of them. So there are things you can do in the edit page that you can't do in the cut page, and there are a couple of unique things in the cut page which I will show you. But I think the thing to take away from this is you don't just work in one or the other, you kind of work in both. So I would build the program first in the cut page and I would finesse it in the edit page. So I think the first thing that confuses people in the cut page is the double timeline. You have a timeline here. This is showing all the shots that you've got in your program. So whether that's 2 shots, 200 shots, 1,000 shots, you always see all the shots all the time in this timeline. And down below is a zoomed in timeline of where that playhead is. So if I just move this playhead to here, that frame there is that frame there. So if I go to the cut point, we're bang on the edit point there. So you're always in a zoomed in view on this side, and you're always in a fully expanded view on this side. And this saves you a lot of time. When you're in the edit page, what you find you're doing a lot of is you're zooming in and out of your timeline so that you can find scenes further down and move them around and that sort of thing. You'll find that you're zooming in and out a lot more in the edit page than you will in the cut page, because in here, I can go to wherever I want. If I want to go to the end of the program, just grab your top timeline and push it to the end. And then I can do any fine work here, so I might do a bit of trimming or something, and then you might want to go back to the middle of your program and insert some shots in there. It's a really clever way of seeing your interface. But this line here doesn't move. This is fixed in the middle, and the frames run through it. So it's a little bit weird, but you get used to it really quick. So to basically move around quickly, you wouldn't use this area because you'd be scrolling and scrolling like this. You use the top timeline. So we'll look at the unique tools in the cut page. I'll make a new sequence, but I'll just give you a quick tour. Up here is the media pools. This is an exact copy of the media page down here. This is where all your clips sit. It's kind of on a tiered basis. So you go master, that's your top level. You can change it into list view, and then we go into the B-roll and into our shop, for example. And up here you've got your transitions and your titles and effects. We're not going to look too much into those. I want to really show you the unique points of the cut page first, and the reasons why it's so efficient and easy to use. In here we have our viewer. You only have a single viewer in the cut page. So in the edit page we have our source. Just load a clip in. We have our source and our recorder. So there's our timeline, and that's our source viewer. But in the cut page, you don't have that. You just have one viewer. And at the moment, it's in timeline mode. So it's looking at my timeline. If I switch here, it will look at my source clips. And now what I can do is take a shot. In fact, you can even hover over the clip and just move it like so. Move on to the next one. You don't even need to click them. There's another unique thing in here which is called source tape, which is here, which allows you to look at, so for example, we've got B-roll here. I've got 3 B-roll folders, so one's got cycling shots in it, one's got this shop, and one's got his ride to work. If I want to look at all those clips in one hit, I can press source tape here, and you look at all the footage in one big hit, which is fantastic. Now, I've done a whole episode on this very recently, so again, I'll put a link in the description as to where that is. I suggest you go and watch that episode. It's about a 10-minute episode purely on the advantages of working in source tape. So let's do a brand new sequence, and I want to show you exactly how the cut page builds up an edit very quickly. So if I click in sequences and right click and say create new timeline, what you'll find is that it doesn't stay in the sequences folder. So it creates our new sequence, but sequences in the cut page always end up in the master folder. So what you can do is take it from here and drag and drop it into your sequences folder. So there it is now. So we've got our empty timeline. Let's go and have a look at our footage, which is in the B-roll folder. And let's start with the ride to work, and let's grab some clips. So let's take this one, cycle to work. Okay. So what we can do now, I've just double clicked it to load it into the viewer, and we can just press play. I'm using my space bar. One tip here for navigating through a clip is to use JKL. So this is a really common technique. Press L once will play, press L again will twice speed, again 4 times, 8 times, and K will always pause. And J does the same in reverse. So it's play reverse, twice reverse, 4 times reverse, 8 times reverse, and K is pause. If you hold down the K key and press L or J, you move forwards or backwards but slow down. So it's a really efficient way of working. And then I and O keys are for in and out. So, or you can just use your mouse and just scrub through here. So let's just start with this, move through, mark out there. And to bring that down to the timeline, I'm going to press F9, which will insert it into the timeline. In fact, you could press F9, F10, or append because it's the first clip. So that's now down on our timeline, one clip. Timeline always stays in the middle on the close-up view, and this is my entire sequence, currently one shot. And just to show you, if I go to the edit page, there's the one shot. Okay, so back to the cut page. Let's take a second shot now. Okay, so here he is. Let's get him just coming around the corner. Mark in there. If you want to add a duration, you can just click on here and type in. So if I want to add 5 seconds, you can say add 500. We'll add 5 seconds and mark out. So I've got 5 seconds of him coming down the street. And to put that down as the timeline, I'm going to press Shift and F12, which is append. So I know it's going to the end of my timeline. Even though I know I've only got 2 shots, but that's the way to do it. And if I go to the edit page, just to show you, there's our 2 edits. Okay, back to the cut page. And let's get one more. So he's arriving at work. Let's see what's in here. Yep, let's take that one. And what I'm going to do with this one, I'll just literally drag it onto the timeline. So just drag and drop down there. So that's now our 3 shots. That's our full timeline. And let's just get one more. Here he is. Yeah, so he's locking his bike up here. So let's just do, I'm just going to move that mark in. What I can do is just zoom in a little bit here and mark in. If I pull these sliders here, you get a more detailed slow view. So you can precisely get to your edit point that you want. So let's drag that, and I'm going to take this shot here and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom timeline this time. So you can work with the top timeline and the bottom timeline. It's really that easy. So if we wanted to trim any of this footage, it's really easy in the cut page. We just grab the handle in the zoomed in view and just start trimming. And when we go into the trim mode like this, we get this view. So this top one here is to trim the outgoing clip, this shot here. And the incoming shot is here, and we just trim on the bottom row for that. So you can just literally move it like this. It's really, really easy. So let's just get him off frame there, and maybe we just want to tighten him up a little bit here. Let him go a little bit further down the street, and you can see that's just updating for me on the timeline. It's really easy. Now in the edit page to do that, I'm going to come into here. First thing I'm going to have to do is zoom in because my icons are so small I can't actually grab them, and already it's more inconvenient. So in a moment, I'm going to reveal probably the main stumbling block that people have with the cut page. I think what I've done so far is pretty straightforward, but there's one key thing that you need to know, and this is where people get tripped up with it. So just before I do that, let's go back to the cut page, and I just want to cut in a couple of interviews, and let's go to my interviews reels. And in here, I've got them kind of marked up already, but let's just check.
Well, a lot of these bikes...
Yep, that's the one I want. So I'm just going to append that to the timeline. So I can press Shift F12, or I can just drag here and drop it right on the end there. And you see now we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the big interview shot here. And interview, let's put another one in here. And this one, I'm just going to fine tune the beginning of this. So if I play it,
I didn't call it.
what I can do is either grab these points here, and you get a zoomed in image on that audio. It's really nice to see. Or you can just grab here and he does the same thing. So I can stop it exactly on the frame I want just by pulling these. It's really cool. And I'm going to press Shift F12 to append that to the timeline. And now we've got 6 shots on the timeline. So we've got our double interview, or 2 interview shots, sorry. And we've got 4 shots at the beginning. So I've now decided I want the interview swap round. I want this piece before this piece. So it's really easy. All you've got to do is grab this whole section. And as I move and keep on the top row, as I drop it onto the edit point, you see that it changes icon. And then just let go. And they're now swapped over. So you can drag and drop. Let me show you that again. So if I take this one, just drag and drop it onto here, and you swap the order. Drag and drop when it goes onto the edit point. And you can do that down here as well. So you just take a clip, drag, drop it onto the edit point, and let go. They swap round. Let's just undo that. Okay, so I just want to put some cutaways on the interview. So let's just go to the start of the interview here.
Several people have called the bicycle man's
And
most noble
maybe at that point there. So let's find our B-roll. And let's have a look at the stuff inside the shop. And what I'm going to do is go into source tape. Again, the link is in the description for the video I made on this. And we can now scrub through the entire footage that we've got inside the shop. So it saves us clicking on each of these individual icons. This is really cool. So let's start with this shot here. Just do a mark in and a mark out. And I'm going to drag this down and create a video layer 2. So as I release that, now we have level 2. So I'm going to click on that, which now means when I press any of the insert keys, it will map to track 2 and not to track 1. So track 1 is for my main interview and the opener, and this layer 2 is going to be for these little cutaways over this interview. So back to my source tape, you can press Q and it will go back to either the source or source tape, depending which one you had highlighted. Let's take that there, and I just want 3 seconds of this. So if I click in here, I can say add 300, or 3 dot will give you the same thing. A dot is a 00, and I'm going to press Shift F12 this time, and that will append that shot to video level 2. So it won't go to the end of the program, it will go to the end of track 2. And let's just put one more in, and let's go, yeah, let's take that little whiz round there. Again, I can use my JKL keys to get it fine-tuned. Mark in and mark out. And I'm just going to manually drop this one down, but I'm going to put it on the top track. So it shows you the flexibility. I can put it up here, I can put it down here, I can use the Shift F12 command. It's really flexible. So we now have our cutaways over the interview. So that's all great. We've got our interview, we've got our little opener, we've got some cutaways, we've got 2 layers of video going on. So we're slowly building up a nice edit here. But what I want to show you next is the big part where people trip up in the cut page. When I do training, this is the bit that a lot of people go, I didn't realize that that is how it operated. So to explain it, let me first go to the edit page. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this clip from the front. So if I highlight it and just press backspace, the clip has disappeared. Now if we go into the cut page, that's happened here. You can see that. So it's mirroring, which is exactly what we want it to do. So I'm going to undo that. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but in the cut page. So I'm going to highlight the first clip, and I'm going to press backspace. And the whole timeline ripples up. So back to the edit page, I want to show you one more thing. In here, if I make a trim, like so, it leaves a gap. Let's go to the cut page, and you can see the gap there. Let's just undo that. If I do that same move in the cut page, the timeline ripples. Okay, so it's always trying to close the gap. It's trying to keep your program without any gaps in it. And that's quite fundamental to what's going on here. So if I undo that and do the same thing on V2, watch what happens. It leaves a gap. So why V1, it doesn't leave a gap, and V2, it does leave a gap. And that's the fundamental thing where people get wrong in the cut page. V1, the video track 1, is always trying to dynamically adjust the timeline to give you no gaps. So it's basically updating everything dynamically. Any layer above video 1, so 2, 3, 4, 5, is behaving as it would in the edit page. So video 1 will always dynamically trim. It will always try and close the gaps. And this is what makes the cut page so efficient, because it is always removing the gaps for you. It's doing a lot of the work for you that you would have to do manually in the edit page. So there's another really cool feature called Smart Insert. Again, this is keeping you working really efficiently. So what I'm going to do is have a look at my B-roll. I'm going to switch on to source tape mode so we see all three of these folders in one clip, as it were. And let's just find the stuff where he's coming down the mountain. Okay, so we've got a shot here, so I'm going to do a mark in. Let's just zoom forward a little bit, and we'll mark out just when he leaves frame. And what I want to do is insert that in between the two interviews. So if I just put my timeline roughly at the right point, I don't have to be exactly on the right point because of this thing called Smart Insert. And what that does is, in the cut page, the edit is always looking at the nearest edit point. See this arrow here? This is always looking at where the playhead is, and it always aligns up the nearest edit point. So you can be quite loose with how you drop them in. So I need to press Q to go back to my source, and then press F9. And that jumps down now to the edit point, the nearest edit point that there was. It doesn't go to the place where my playhead was, it goes to the edit point. So you really don't have to be constantly looking for the exact frame you want to drop it in. Let's just throw another frame in. Let's maybe take this shot here, mark in, and mark out. And this time, again, I'll just move the playhead away, so it's not actually on the actual edit point, but you can see the smart icon indicating where it's going to go. And this time, if I press, again, Q to go back to my source, and if I press this button here, that is the Smart Insert. Again, drops in, and it goes next to our other cutaway, not halfway through the interview. So that's a really cool feature, Smart Insert. So it automatically inserts at the nearest edit point, not necessarily where your playhead is. So let's just see in our edit page, just check it's all corresponding, which it is. There's our two new shots we've just inserted. And let's imagine we want to change one of these shots. So we've got this shot and then this shot, and we want to replace this shot. So what we can do is go back to our source clip. Let's find the shot we want to replace it with. Let's take this one. So I'm going to mark in.
Yep.
Zoom forward, and I'm making it quite a different duration. And what I want to do is replace this shot and extend the gap that I need. I don't want to lose any of this interview, and I don't want to lose the end of this shot, but I just want to replace this shot with this shot and extend the duration. So what I need to do for that is do what's called ripple overwrite. And what that's done now is it's made the right duration, it's moved everything up, so the interview still starts at the same place. It's just automatically extended or reduced the timeline to fit the new shot in perfectly. So that's a really cool feature. It's really quick and easy to do that. If I was doing that in the edit page, I'd have to make space for it. I'd have to take my interview here, make space, highlight this, delete it, find the shot, drop it in, and then close the gap again. It's a really slick way of working in the cut page. So that's ripple overwrite. It literally changes the shot and adjusts the timeline duration for you. Okay, this next feature in the cut page is one of my favorites. This is fantastic. What we're going to do is go to our interview.
So bicycles have stories to tell. They've carried people all over the place. Some of them have been through accidents.
So I'm just going to cut that out a little bit there.
People all over the place. Some of them have been through accidents.
Right, so let's just cut that. So I'm going to press backspace. We'll automatically trim that down. And we've now got a cut. So what we've got now is a cut in the middle of our interview. So we're going to get a jump cut.
They've carried people all over the place.
So there's our jump cut. So how can we fix the jump cut? Well, we've got a few options, and one of them is here. It's called smooth cut. So if I just press this, the smooth cut comes over here automatically. And what DaVinci does now is tries to morph that cut together.
Some of them.
Okay, so it didn't do a great job there. So let's just extend the duration. Sorry, reduce the duration. And see if that looks any better.
Carried people all over the place. Some of them.
It's not great, so I'm going to undo that. And that does work better if his head's not actually moving so much. You can really get away with that. It's a really good way of just fixing a jump cut. But the other way around it would be to do a little edit in here. So I'm just going to go forward a bit.
Miles left to travel.
And if we do a cut here, so there's a scissors icon here, we just cut that. And a cheap way of doing this is you take your shot. I'm going to go into the effects editor. So there's a small effects editor in here. And in here we've got transform, we've got cropping, we've got audio mixing, we've got the speed control, we've got camera. This allows us to stabilize shots very quickly. We've got this one, which is dynamic zoom, and we've got our composite blend modes here. So I'm going to click on the transform tool, and I'm just going to scale in a bit and reposition that. And now if we play back this edit,
carried people all over the place. Some of them have
you see, because we've zoomed in, you get away with the jump cut. So that's one way of doing that. Now, that was quite a lot of procedure to do that. So I'm just going to undo all that. So we've got our jump cut still.
All over the place.
So I'm just going to go to the start of the edit. And I'm going to press this icon here. And what that does is it puts a 5-second clip on top, but already zoomed in. It intelligently zooms into the image.
Some of them have.
So without me having to do any manual transforming, it's automatically matched the shot, added 5 seconds to it, and zoomed in. Not only that, it does it intelligently. It actually repositions the face to be in the correct position in the shot. And if you're not happy with that, you can highlight this, go to your transform tool, and you can make your own extra tweaks as well. So that is brilliant. That's called place on top.
People all over the place. Some of them have lots of miles left to.
So next, if you just wanted to add a dissolve or something like that, or an effect to the timeline, that's easy to do. I'm going to take my master timeline viewer here. Let's scrub down to the beginning. And let's put a dissolve between these two shots here. And all you got to do is press the dissolve icon, which is here. And that's done. That's a dissolve. So straight through. Nice and easy. If you want to adjust the duration, just grab it down here. And if you want to change that to any other effect, if you go up to the effects here, not effects, but transitions here, and you've got all the stuff that you're used to seeing. So you can do a dip to color if you want, just drag and drop that on. So you've got other things up here. So you've got sync bin, titles, effects, and I'm going to show you all that in a more advanced cut page episode, as this one's getting a little bit long already. But there is one other thing I want to show you now. On the playhead itself, if you right-hand click, you get these icons here, and this one here is select everything to the right, this is select everything to the left, and this is add a transition point at where the playhead is. So what I'm going to do is open up another timeline. So let's go to our media pool, let's go to our sequences, and I'm going to open up the one that we looked at the very beginning, which was our finished sequence, and I'm just going to go to the end. I'm going to right hand click on here and say everything to the right is selected. I'm going to Command C to copy. I'm going to go back to my timeline. I'm going to jump to the end, and I Command V, and I've dropped that whole copied section of sequence into my current sequence. That's a really nice tool. So that's right click on the actual playhead itself. If you want to disable a clip, you can highlight it, just press D, and that disables the clip. So you're then revealing the track beneath it, video 1 in this case. So D to disable and enable. Now, another thing on the cut page is you don't see the separate audio channels relating to the clips. You can see a separate audio channel if you put music down, for example, which I'll do in a moment. But if you want to mute any of the clips, you can do so quite easily. So let's just go over here. So on this clip, if we right-hand click on it, we can just press mute, and that's now, we're now not hearing the audio from that channel. In the edit page, you obviously see separate audio. So there's the audio for that clip that we've just muted. And so this is where you'd kind of come back to the edit page. When you start doing your audio, you'd be either be in the edit page or you'd be in the Fairlight page. So let's go back to the cut page. I'm just going to grab a bit of music, and I'm going to drop that down, just show you what happens. So with music, you just drop it down here, and I've now got an audio track running right the way through, so it's a soundtrack. It's miles too loud, so we can go into our edit inspector here, and we can click on the audio symbol here, and this just does the whole clip, just drops the level. And you can do that while it's playing. If we go to the edit page, you'll see that there's the audio track, back to the cut page, and all we've got to do now really is export it out. And the beauty of the cut page is it has this thing called quick export. You just literally click on here, choose the export that you want, and we did cover this in the delivery page. I did a whole episode on Deliver, so again I'll put a link to that in the description, and you've got a more detailed view of how to use the quick export. And of course you don't need to use the quick export, you can also go to the Deliver page and just deliver from there. So I hope you enjoyed that episode and you have a good understanding now of how the cut page works and how it works with the edit page as well. This episode came about because I was asked to do one in the comments, so I do listen to the comments and I have delivered. So drop me a comment, let me know what you want in future episodes and I'll see what I can do. Also check out my Facebook page, which is Killer Tips DaVinci Resolve. There's a whole ton of tips and extra information in there. Also check out the episode I did a few weeks ago called Source Tape, because that is part of the cut page and I didn't cover that specifically in this episode because I've already done an episode on it. What else? Hit the subscriptions and also hit the notifications so that you get an indicator of when I've done my next episodes. And look after yourselves, and I will see you in the next episode.